Welcome, Twins at Law. How are you, Fletch?
Mike, I'm tired, brother. How are you?
You're tired?
Yeah.
Why? Why so?
I've been listening.
Pourquoi?
I've been pourquoi? Porque. This
Trilingual around this
This
motherfucker.
Brittany Griner shit is just wearing me out on these guys running victory laps, patting each other on the back for getting her out. And to watch people twist in the wind and torment themselves on how they can congratulate them, how often and thoroughly they can congratulate themselves is tiring. I said, now, are we looking over the fact you just released one of the most violent fucking arms dealers in the world for a basketball player?
Well, the really manipulative part is the picture where she's coming out. She had on lipstick, and I was like, well, maybe.
I mean, no, that part didn't exhaust me.
But it is funny, and I was thinking about this today. It's like, aren't we far more concerned about chicks that are attractive as opposed to not?
Well, yeah.
So she put on some makeup and something like, okay, well, maybe she really was.
Yeah, but that's the whole interesting thing about the Griner case this is we talked about before. You know, she pled guilty because they said there's a 99% conviction rate in Russia. And as we pointed out, there's a 99% conviction rate for black and brown people in federal court here.
Right.
And
here being Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, Los Angeles, California, the liberal bastion of the world. But it was hilarious to me because I sat there and I said, now, I don't know. Technically, I think Putin now has a clear lead on Sleepy Joe Biden and releasing people on marijuana charges. Because I haven't seen anyone release, and I'm sure
6,000 total. 6,000 total. But again, and then I can't. Joe Biden drives me fucking crazy just because
Don't worry, he hasn't realized that.
Oh yeah, just to use your line, when they're all the same. The politicians are all the same. When Donald Trump is at Hillary Clinton's kid's wedding, it's the same.
Right.
And that goes to it's important. One of the things we've done at Twins at Law is to say the fix is in. And what people need to realize what we mean by that is America is what's called a country of laws, meaning the laws are what decide the outcome.
Right.
It's not whether you're a king or a queen or you come from the right family. It's laws. And if you violated law, then it applies to you equally. One thing Matthew and I have been saying from day one is that's just not true.
Right.
And what I was ranting to Matthew about this today, which is it's all just used as a facade to trick us.
Right.
The people, as long as the government can get us to believe that you have due process of law, or as I was saying earlier, is the government convinces you the government can't show up and do that because that would be unconstitutional.
Right.
And we accept that premise, and then we accept the premise of if the government did do that, you're entitled to due process of law in the court, and you have all these rights. They say that, and it's not true because the judges are part of the government.
What's the oldest joke in the book? You know, checks in the mail, I won't come in your mouth. Everyone goes, okay, well, checks in the mail, you won't come in my mouth. Go ahead and put your dick in my mouth. Oh, what came in? Oh, the checks in the mail. If you know, all they're trying to do is get us to walk away.
Right.
That's good enough for me. Waiter, this soup is cold. Can I have some new soup? Of course you can. Everyone knows they walk back and they put it in the microwave and bring back exactly the same soup. But you walked away and you're happy. The government has fooled us into this idea that we have an agreement together. We, the government, will treat everyone the same based upon this set of laws.
Right.
We're not going to make exceptions for rich people. We're not going to make exceptions for white people or black people or brown people or gay people. But at the end of the day...
But maybe Jewish people. You can't say that, though. I'm just joking. But at the end of the day is we accept and believe that. It's the social contract. We will agree to you all having these powers, but you agree to take care of us by following the Constitution. The truth is, and what is now just abundantly clear is it's not. They use the Constitution, they use the idea of the constitutional protections, they use the idea of due process as just subterfuge to get us to believe stupidity.
Right. They lied to us to make us walk away and go, okay, well, he said he's going to take care of it.
It must be true.
It's back when we talked earlier about when the judge signed off on the warrant for his wife's lingerie drawer. And they said,
Donald Trump's.
Yeah, Donald Trump's. He said, well, a judge signed it. And you go, well, if a judge signed it, but what you don't appreciate and people haven't appreciated, what we're trying to hip you to the idea, you should have a working, fundamental, at least basic fundamental understanding that what you're being told is not true.
And not only is it not true, they're telling you that to trick you. And I was thinking about Donald Trump today, and I always say I'm no Trump person, but here's the craziest fucking thing
They'll
in
get
the
you there, aren't
last
they?
month
They're getting you
is
there.
Donald Trump is fucking, unfortunately or fortunately, telling the truth.
Right.
He's telling you the FBI is corrupt. Guess what? The FBI is corrupt.
Right.
Guess what? He's telling you that the justice system is rigged. He's angry at the Supreme Court. You know why? Because he's expected them to do what they do, which is to do what they're told.
Right.
That's what's so fucking amazing. And I'm like, the motherfucker's telling the truth.
Right, this is what I've said from
Motherfuckers telling the truth.
reason Donald Trump won is because he sat down and he told enough people the truth. He says, look, you're getting screwed over. And the greatest line ever, and people point to this as some sort of him being a racist, he says, hey, black people, vote for me. What do you have to lose?
Oh, it's
and when he makes that statement, he understands 99% of you who are charged are getting convicted. He understands how many of you have been thrown out of your properties and you can't buy properties. Now, his dad might have done the same thing, but at least he's speaking from experience. What he was telling you is that the fix is
Right.
in, and the reason he said, vote for me, he says, I'll change it.
right.
But what he didn't take into account is like all of those people in power push back. And this is really kind of getting to be overkill now. When we have eight or nine different car counts. And
Well, again, but
charges and
they're turning
investigations.
on him because once again is that this is, as long as the system is perceived as working and you working within it or against it, as long as that's the premise, they'll let you do it.
Right.
Until they get a chance to get rid of you. And where he fucked up is he should have said this earlier. He should have said, listen, I know this. The Supreme Court of the United States, it's not, you don't have rights.
Right.
It's the rights of, and he did say this, it's the rights of corporations and rich people. If Donald Trump would have said that, it's like the people storming the Capitol on January 6th. If he would have said, listen, you can do this because I'm letting you, because I'm in power, come do it, he would have been correct. It's when he's kind of got pushed to the side and they get a chance, okay, now kill that dude,
Right.
get rid of him, because the power elite and the entities are the ones, get rid of that motherfucker.
Well, when Donald Trump broke the cardinal rule, he was playing along. He was the outsider. But once he forgot to realize once you get on the inside, now you're an insider.
Right.
He's either got to take it and run with it. If he'd have came out and said, I could give a fuck less what the Supreme Court says because just for my black fan or my black friends or whatever, remember the Supreme Court said you weren't even people.
Well, but
so don't get offended when the Supreme Court comes out. And to my women friends, the Supreme Court said you can't vote. I'm going to change everything. And the only way I can change it is to ruffle a bunch of feathers and hurt people's feelings, which he roughly was. But then he got caught up and it got a little
but I don't think I think the mistake he made is not truly he was pointing to it,
Right.
but he couldn't say why that happened. And when he was saying when he said I don't pay any taxes because that's how the system is.
Right.
I know how it works. That was the most accurate thing he
Right.
said. The part he missed is, oh, by the way, this isn't you. It's the system is rigged.
Right.
This whole
Yeah.
idea of due process. And
you almost had it, but where Donald Trump fucked up is that he forgot the cardinal rule. If you break this rule, then you don't get our protection.
Right.
And he thought he went in knowing these laws don't apply to me because one, I'm
Right.
smart, I don't pay taxes.
Right.
Two, we throw people out because we got lawyers to get rid of
But he
them.
wasn't even smart.
And
he was just in
he
the
was
group.
just following the rules,
Right.
the group rules.
Right.
Once he broke those rules and then he wanted to go back to the protection of the cocoon, they say, "No, we're done with you because you can't be trusted." Because one, you gave away our
Right.
secrets.
You can't be trusted to not tell the real. And what's amazing is that shit is so fucking true. And what really brought us to this point was 2 days ago, the LA Times did a piece.
Right.
And this was one, I read this and it was like, the whole thing is
real quick
a
before we go.
fraud.
The whole idea again is that these rules are supposed to apply to each of us, regardless of what your profession is, regardless of who you are, and what Donald Trump says. And not a Trump guy, but Trump is right about a lot of shit. Is that literally these laws only apply to the poor people or the people who break the rules and no longer go along with the group. So go ahead.
So and that is what Trump said. And the irony, of course, is that the media comes after him and society in many ways, because the only way they can keep this power is to convince us that, oh my God, the government can't be targeting us just because of who we are, because that would be unconstitutional.
Right.
They convince us of that. And the number one thing they do is you can trust the judges. You can't trust judges one fucking bit. Or they say you can go to court. You can't go to court. I'm in our case against Compton. I've won 160 million. I've won cases at the highest level, and I am at my wit's end because the system is so rigged. Most people do not have access to the courts.
Right.
And that's where the society, the power people get us. And one thing we're going to do in this show until they close us down, which they will, is to say, you don't have to accept the fucking lies.
Right.
You don't have access to due process.
Another thing that people don't forget is that you may be able to get into court, but it doesn't mean the judge or the DA or anyone else is going to treat you fairly.
The judges,
they came after me, charging me with $1 million. Ultimately, they charged me with every crime they could think of, and all they wanted was for me to stop practicing law.
right? Leave it alone.
Don't go to jail. We just want you to stop practicing law because you're doing too much.
It's the Donald Trump thing.
Yeah.
It's the Donald Trump thing. As long as you don't attack the system too hard, you're okay.
Right.
But when you do, we're gonna get rid of you. And the perfect example of this is, again, Solomon, can you pull that up? This is LA Times 2 weeks ago. Los Angeles judge dismisses charges against 48 officers accused in overtime fraud scheme. This is stunning. 48 highway patrolmen stole, they admit to stealing $360,000 in overtime pay.
Right.
And their defense, well, we've always done it that way.
Right.
They come to LA. They bring the case, it's a Sacramento case, but they go to a Los Angeles County judge because judges are fair.
Right.
And they get this
no need to go searching for a judge.
Yeah, and they get this Cohen guy who is as corrupt as you get. This judge rules that these 48 California highway patrolmen, who there's no question at all that they submitted fraudulent work time cards. This judge says, you know what we'll do is we will lower it to a misdemeanor so that if you guys agree to pay the money back. Right. That opportunity never exists for anyone.
Well, let's tell us this, and this is the extent of it.
But let's go through the parts
Attorney
first.
General here says, over our objection, the judge offered to reduce the felonies and allow the officers to complete a misdemeanor diversion program by paying restitution. The attorney's actually for the officers is a former attorney general, or district attorney in LA, which is kind of funny. The CHP announced in 2019 that it identified about $360,000 in fraudulent overtime pay. And what these guys would do is they say, oh, we're going to watch the Caltrans, which are the street sweepers, fix the stop signs that ran over people. And they would be there for 3 hours, and then they would get paid for the entire 8 hours. And their defense is literally, we've done this all the time, so it's not really fraud. But the Attorney General in California says, we don't agree to this. And Judge Cohen has a long history. I don't know if I don't know what he is. I know
a corrupt piece of shit.
Well,
he is.
The reality is that what he did is he made every one of these officers. Now they don't have a record. Now when they testify against black or brown or poor people and say, I can be trusted, what you'll never get to find out is, in fact, you were committed to felonies involved moral turpitude, theft, fraud, stealing, lying, all of the things that would disqualify you as a witness.
In the course and scope of your employment as a law enforcement officer, what Cohen did is brush this all under the table. And I ask our viewers, if you were at your job and you submit by the way, I'm going to submit fraudulent claims of what I'm owed, there's zero chance that this Cohen person or any other LA County Superior Court or any Superior Court judge would say, you know what, we're just going to overlook it. If those are 48 Mexicans, can you imagine, or 48 African Americans, or 48 January 6 rioters, they would throw the book at you. And what this guy does, this is a guy in your case, this Cohen dude, who, this is another one. They say, oh, the government can't wiretap you without a search warrant. Cohen authorized a retroactive search warrant. As it turns out, LA County tape records every phone call between attorneys. and they maintain it. This Cohen was the judge who said, "Oh, we can go back and retroactively look at it." He is part of the corrupt system, and there's no question. And there's a group of these people.
Right.
There's a group of these judges, a group of these inspectors, and it's what they do. They brought it to him because you know what? He's the judge that gives the people, the state, the government, whatever they want.
Yes, I don't think it was Cohen who did, but I didn't.
It is Cohen.
I thought
It
it
is
was.
Cohen.
Thought it was the other judge who did it.
It was Cohen.
But here's the
I believe. I mean, maybe
I
I'm wrong.
thought it was the other judge who did it.
No,
I got to be honest.
I thought
Cohen
it
has
was-
always been, always been a square dude with me. To be
Well,
honest with
maybe I'm wrong, but,
But,
there's a Cohen who approved the retroactive, and if not, then it's another judge. And I
you.
apologize.
But it's not the point.
It's
about
still
what
this
judge
Cohen
it
in
is.
this case. You know what? We know it was this Cohen in this case who went in there and created new law for 48 people who were charged with felonies. And they do that. These people are going to suffer nothing.
Right.
No penalty, no cost. We'll see when they pay it back, by the way. And that's the point. Is that if you and I did this, if anyone you know defrauded the government out or defrauded their employer out of this, they would throw you in prison.
Right.
100%.
What can't be what
Or try
this
to.
is so true because the LA Times put it on the front page of their paper and every local TV program followed it, but there's been no repercussions towards anyone.
Right.
The Times found it important enough. Every TV channel found it important enough to report on it, but there's no repercussions. Now, whether the fix is in or there are a social compact or contract between us and the government, there's never been any part of the social contract or the compact or agreement that says, as a judge, I can decide to let you walk out this door and I'll knock your charges down to misdemeanors when the Attorney General, the elected Attorney General of California is saying, this is not proper, it's not fair, it's not just, it's not right. And they did it anyway. And every one of those people walked out of there with a clean record. Every single one of them. And it's never in dispute that they got paid for a time they didn't work.
No question about it.
Never in dispute.
And the other part is, which is, again, how corrupt the government is that this is just 1 year.
Right.
This is 1 year. What about the prior 20 years, prior 10 years? This is multi-million-dollar fraud that these law enforcement officers have carried out over the years on an ongoing basis. And this judge says, you know what, we're going to reduce this. I wonder how many times he's done that for regular people.
Well, what's interesting about it is that, to me, the better point is this. Do we think this, there's a great line from court. Guy says, make sure you tell the judge it's my first DUI. Judge leans over and says, no, it's the first time you got caught. In this case, it's hard to believe that you got 53 or 4 dozen cops to all on the same day just begin to start overcharging, overbilling. They learned it from somewhere.
Well,
this was taught. This is their procedure.
They admit their defense was, this is how we did it.
Right.
This
Forever.
is how we've learned. So let's just go back for the stat. Let's assume the statute of limitations is 5 years. 5 years, 360,000 a year. That's through what's that? 3.8 million, 3 to 48, 3.4
5 times 3.
Is it 5? Oh no, it's 300 though. So that's 15. So it's 1.5.
There you go.
So it's 1.8. So for the last 5 years, let's say it's just 48.
Right.
Stolen $1.6 million and nothing said about
Let's
it.
remember, the LA Times puts on the front page. Every TV station runs with it. And you know what no one said? How come we aren't checking the other divisions?
Right.
This was East LA. This is the easy one to pick on.
Right.
We're not going to check any of the other divisions because if this was common practice and these officers are shipped around and this is understood that this is the way that it's billed, you come in, you work for 3 hours, you get paid for 8. What makes us think that that hasn't happened anywhere else? But we have to assume that because now we've been fed something from the Times that says, hey, we caught this. Now we're supposed to walk away, but no one said, let's go look and see what happened last year.
Well,
let's go see what happened in this division.
Well, it's just like with the Rampart deal where they said, oh, Rampart was, it's all corrupt and all. And so what the government does is they say, well, look, we stopped Rampart and they're the only ones. It's not true.
Right.
This exists at every single station, and we know it does because they say it doesn't.
Right.
That it's literally, it's like the Project Blue Book, which is the big UFO investigation in like 57. Stunning. Project Blue Book says they document 400 UFO UAP events that this is the phrase flying saucer didn't come out till like 57, so a couple months before that. 400 UAP events, and Project Blue Book's reported as we investigated and there was nothing there until you open Project Blue Book and said there's 400 here. That's what this thing is. Well, they were charged and we've dealt with it and it's over. Well, there's no premise, no portion of that. Even their statements prove that's not true.
Right.
You're saying this is all we knew. Well, who taught you that? It sounds like it's systemic. It sounds like it's gone on forever and ever, but it's just in the East LA division. It's this idea that the government wants us, trust the judge, trust Judge Cohen. He wouldn't lie to us. Trust the highway. They wouldn't lie to us. And it's because they get us to suspend common sense.
Right.
And one point about this show that we've got to do is if we don't start, the public starts saying, we don't fucking believe you. You've tricked us long enough. You've sent us to prison long enough. You've destroyed our businesses long enough. It's riveting, dude.
Right.
If we don't stop it, it's going to end us.
Right.
And it's shit like this where, again, if this was a construction, they were a group of construction workers and they're working on a federal contract and they submitted something wrong or they were taking millions of dollars a year.
So you mean if I walk into the grocery store and say, okay, I've got these 10 bottles of milk, I'm going to pay for 3 of them. I'm taking these other ones,
Right.
though. That's essentially what they're talking about here, and that's okay.
Well, it's okay to the judge. Judge Cohen says, by the way, I know it was charged as a felony, and I know and these guys aren't even admitted it was a felony, admitting,
Right.
but I'm going to reduce it anyway. Why would that judge do that? Because that's the role of the judge in this fraud. These judges are part and parcel to the fraud. If the judges would follow the actual law, we wouldn't be here, would we?
No.
And this is my thing again. I'm not making up for police brutality. But you know what? Being a cop has to suck. And you want to talk about shitty training? They get shitty training. Cops do just shoot motherfuckers for no reason, but that's how they're trained. And then these judges sit there and in judgment and say, that cop was a racist and he violated those constitutional rights. But that same fucking judge who's not under the threat of whether it's real or imagined being shot under the threat of the job, just not poorly trained. That judge every day violates even more constitutional rights and no one says anything. These judges are part of it, dude. They're part of this whole thing where they take from regular people and they give it to powerful people.
Well, it's all based upon this facade, this premise. We have what's called social gatekeepers. And so the idea is, well, we're going to stop you from breaking the law by teach you this in school, and teach you this by your coaches, and teach you this. But by the time something really goes wrong, we'll have the judges who will tell you everything's okay. Hence, Donald Trump can get searched based upon what a judge who knows nothing about the case says. Then we have these example after example. The George Floyd case, 23 fucking years. We watched a human being being smothered to death, peeing on himself, and that judge says, I think that's worth 23 years. He didn't talk about the fact that they falsified police reports. They didn't talk about the fact that this man had multiple prior instances of being violent and acting inappropriate. And the other thing going back,
in part because if they do, then you get directly back to where I'm at. The judges knew about it.
Well,
the system knew about it. They've watched it and they've kept them. And why do they keep them? That's the question. Why do they keep them? Why does this Judge Cohen get kept around to grant these nutty rulings? Is because for the system to work, you got to let them off.
Well, all the judges do this with all the vast majority of any time you see a public official who's brought up on charges of some sort, it's just almost without fail that they're going to get some protection from the judges. Almost without fail.
And that's part of that. But therein lies the process, which is
the process.
As long as it's the greatest criminal conspiracy. It's one of these things where they say, oh, a criminal conspiracy is this, and you did this, and you did this, and we're not going to allow it. That's called transference, because another criminal conspiracy is where you all allow a certain number of people to violate every law, to steal millions and millions of dollars from us.
Right.
And then you say, but you know what? I'm not going to let them charge you.
And that's the interesting thing about it. I don't know where this judge or any other judge gets the right. They're not in charge of filing charges. This gets us to the district attorney.
Right.
District attorney is the person who has to file the charges. He or she's in charge of whether or not they're knocked down to misdemeanors. Because literally the judge can't say, he couldn't do this on his own. He has a presiding judge. He has a boss.
Because
he has the district attorney there.
Are you saying the fix is in?
I'm saying the fix is in.
And there's no question about it. The idea that the judge, I'm making a charging decision in this case. I'm finding the evidence is what? There's been no evidence presented.
Right.
You can't find anything. There's been no evidence presented. You don't have the statutorily or constitutionally, you can't even look at the evidence. Your job is to decide the facts, decide the legal issues at trial, period. And what you have is this judge walks in and says, you know what, these 48 guys in this one station for this 1 year, I'm going to reduce it because it doesn't count. And whatever, you know what else? We're not going to look anymore because it's over.
Well,
it's like there's no UFOs.
Technically, the judge is in charge of the law, and the government, the DA is in charge of proving the facts. The prosecuting body here, the Attorney General, says, we have facts that prove this is not misdemeanor conduct. This is felonious conduct. They stole the money. They knew what they were doing, and they did it anyway. So based upon that, the judge then says, I'm going to find you guilty of a misdemeanor, which isn't even really a misdemeanor because I'm going to allow it to go down to nothing, despite the fact that the prosecutorial agency said this is felony conduct.
That was the other part is a misdemeanor. I thought it was a monetary number that puts you to misdemeanor. And
some charges, but
well, this is one where how do you make stealing?
Fraud's not a misdemeanor, and theft. He was charged with grand theft because it's over $900.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it can't even be what you say it is, but yet it happens. And the presiding judge, the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court, and fucking Newsom, who claims to be for us, doesn't do a fucking thing.
Well, let's be fair. Newsom hasn't done anything, but his attorney general did object. The presiding judge of LA counties has said nothing.
But by objecting, he says he's objecting. You know what he didn't do? He didn't walk out and say, this is a country of laws, and the laws apply equally to everybody. I find this, I'm not authorizing you to reduce it. You don't have the authority to reduce it. You can't do anything. He didn't do any of that because you know why? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We got him. And there's no UFOs. Twins at Law. Thank you guys.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye. That shit's crazy, dude.
That's all crazy.